Hey guys, thanks for watching. This is going to be a almost half-hour interview with Milo Lines, one of the best drivers of the golf ball that I've ever met, and also a really great coach that teaches players on the PGA Tour, women on the LPGA Tour, and also players on satellite tours all over the world, and a lot of regular golfers as well. And we're going to be talking about using the ground forces into the ground and what we learned while we were filming this thing called the driving force, which is out now over at BeBetterGolf.net/driving force. You're going to see the driving force over there. It's really exciting, but we'll talk about more of that in this video coming up. So check it out, and thanks a lot to Milo for spending some time with me on Skype. So let's go to the Skype. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm really excited to have Milo Lines on the line with me right now. Milo, I wanted to call you today because we just finished this really big project called the Driving Force, which is the culmination of something that Milo and I have been talking about doing for about 6 or 7 months, since last October, I think, or something like that. No, not last October. When was the first time I came out and saw you? That was the end of May?
End of May.
After we did that first series of videos, I was just so impressed, Milo, with the way you hit the golf ball and everything. And I gotta think that after doing this series called the Driving Force, which we'll show you guys a snippet from soon, but after doing this series, it reminded me of seeing two cars that look pretty similar, right? And you don't know why one car is so much faster and performs so much better than the other car until you really got to look under the hood. And that's kind of what I feel like we did when we had Dr. Scott with the Swing Catalyst out there.
I agree. It's kind of a neat concept, being able to be on Swing Cat and be able to see what's actually going on behind the scenes or inside that you really can't see.
There was a new term that I learned when we did this last month that I didn't know before, because I knew of ground forces and I knew of like the vertical, the torque, the horizontal, but I never heard before about a ground force pattern. And that really seems to be the difference in why you're more consistent than I am, and maybe I'm more consistent than like other golfers. What is a ground force pattern?
Well, a ground force pattern is basically how each individual uses the ground and uses their body to get the golf club moving. So we all kind of have our own thumbprint of how we do it. Now, some people's thumbprint is very inconsistent. It's like they got the scarred up thumb. It changes every time. And others, every swing pretty much looks the same. And that's kind of what we saw with my golf swing. It looked to be almost the exact same pattern every swing.
Okay, I'm going to read you something that one of the golfers who already got the Driving Force sent me an email that he really liked it. He wanted to know, and I knew this question would come up, because everything we did in the Driving Force was with driver. What's the difference in how you use your ground force pattern throughout the bag on full shots?
I'd say the pattern's the same. It's probably just a little less dynamic with the other clubs. You'd see the pressures, that the magnitudes would be the amount of pressure percentage-wise would be the same, but the magnitude would be different. So you wouldn't see nearly as much force going into the ground swinging a shorter club, like a wedge.
My next question is, it seemed to me like after we're talking about ground force patterns, this was like a huge like illumination for me. It seems to me that you could kind of put golfers into three groups now, and see if you agree with this. The first group, that would be maybe like the more poor golfer, or the one that struggles with consistency the most and power, would be one that just doesn't have the order correct. As far as the order should be, load, drop, catch, and breaks, they might, drop before they're even loaded. And then they might put the brakes on before they've even like done anything. Like, it's all out of order. Yep. And so that might be the first player. So they're really going to struggle, and there's going to be a pretty definitive ceiling on the ability of that player, right? Uh-huh. The second player, which I think that I would be in, is my order is correct as far as I do the load, drop, catch, and breaks in the correct order, but the timing of that order, and also the amplitude of how hard I'm doing each one of those things, doesn't quite exactly match what I should be doing, would be best for me.
Exactly.
the third type of player would be somebody like you who has all three. He's got the order correct, he's got the timing of when these things happen correct in the golf swing, and then he's also got the amplitude of how much to do each one of these things. And that'd be like somebody like you who's super consistent. So my question to you is, how can somebody go from 1 to 2, like from out of order to in order, or from in order to correct timing and amplitude in order? So how do you, like, that's what Be Better Golf is all about, leveling up. So how does somebody level up?
So first you have to understand what the order is, and then you have to learn how to do the order slow. So you have to learn how to move in the right order, in the right sequence, at a slow rate of speed. Once you can do that, then you begin to add speed and force to it. But until you get the right order, it doesn't do you any good to try to step on the gas harder. All you do is screw things upward.
So, and then also this is something that we talk about like really in depth on the Driving Force, and that's what we're talking about today. Is we made this new product called the Driving Force, which is at bebettergolf.net/driving-force. But we talk about it there. But basically, it's not just the order; it's also like when in the swing you hit these spots. So talk a little bit about the method that we created in this video with the help of Dr. Scott and some other pros that he's talked to. The method that we created so that we can help people find the loading pattern that works best for them, and also when and how hard to do each one of those things.
And we used a little bit of what goldilocks. So go to the extremes first. So if you're looking to figure out if you want to get more pressure to the right or to your trail leg, or you want to keep more pressure left or on your lead leg, try both extremes. Try to do one where you feel like you stay very on your front leg, and then one where you feel like you get your pressure fully to the trail leg, and see what happens. Then work your way from the edges back to the middle.
Right.
Be able to find kind of the happy medium that feels about right and athletic for you.
I'm pulling my phone out because I wanted to show you this, because I thought it was interesting. When you go in this, there's a part of the Driving Force where Milo, there's 5 different parts, and there's actually going to be, I think, about 7 or 8 different parts by the time I'm done adding, because I'm adding new content to it every couple days. And one thing I wanted to ask you was if I can get to the part of your recap here, where Milo did this really interesting thing where Milo took himself. He's a really great driver of the golf ball, but Milo can become an extremely poor or average driver of the golf ball if he tries to do all the same things that he does, but using someone else's forces or patterns. So like Milo tries to hit this ball. It's really interesting with my pattern, which we discovered would be good for me, and he tops it. And then he tries to hit one with Cameron Champ's pattern, and he hits it so-so, but kind of like thin and lame. And then he hits one with his own pattern, and it's back to what he usually wants to do. So while I'm finding this, Milo, talk about the importance of talk about how do you learn from good players, and then also what can you take from good players and what should you ignore from good players? Because just trying to copy somebody isn't really going to be the key.
Well, I like to look at the sequence of movement of all good players. They all do kind of the same. The movement pattern's the same as far as the sequence goes. Now, some players are definitely way more right biased, and others are more centered. So that's more of an individual thing. But the order that we set up, the load, the drop, the catch, the breaks, those are there for everybody. Whether or not you're the average 70-year-old player or you're a tour player, we all have to have those pieces. And they all have to happen in that order, and they have to feed off each other and be dynamic. You don't want them to be staccato, where you're trying to load and stop, drop and stop. That's
right. Yeah, there's a certain smoothness and flow that has to happen. Where's the point from when you're doing it slow and kind of mechanically, you're going, okay, and you can kind of feel it, to, okay, and then you flip the switch and, oh, I'm actually putting these pieces together and it's actually linking up one and feeding into the other. Where does that switch happen? Is that after like 10,000 reps, like I say, or how do you get that to happen?
I don't think it takes that long, but I think it definitely takes some time. Well, most of your golfers, be better golfers, they've played a lot. They already have a pattern that is kind of theirs.
Yeah.
So if they want to change what they have to break it down, go slow, be willing to stay slow for a little while and feel the opposite or something different than what they're used to. If they're willing to do that, they'll get better. If they're just going to go back out to the range and whack golf balls at full speed, they might as well just not worry about it.
So for training speed for the stuff that we're doing in the driving force, you're saying how fast? 50%? Or do you do it by percentage of effort, or do you do it by like distance hit? Like you hit the golf ball usually like 320 carry. So are you trying to hit it like 170 carry when you're really working on your swing?
If I was hitting driver and working on something, I'd be hitting it like 150 yards probably.
Ah, that's really. And you like, I noticed that when I was working with you, you like doing it by distance more than doing it by, okay, let me try 50%.
Yeah, because 50% to me still goes like 300 yards. That's
Right.
50%, like 90% of your output with 50% of your effort.
Yeah, that's why I always notice with coaches when they try to get me to do 50%, I only try to do it 50% a couple times before they start telling me, okay, make one, but it can only go to like the red flag, like where 100 yards is. And yeah.
So when I say 50%, I mean I actually want 50% speed. So instead of 50% effort, which might equate to 110 miles an hour for me, I want 50% speed. So instead of my 125, I want 60 miles an hour, something like that. Just get it out there.
So that 50% speed, that's really, you think, where the changes come the quickest, where you can actually learn something.
So what I like to do is dial it down to 50% speed and then ladder it back up. So I might go 50% speed and then hit the next one 20 yards farther, and then 20 yards farther. And then if I start to feel some of my old patterns jump back in, back down until I can release it. This
is a little bit off topic, but not really. But I wanted to get, how obsessed I am with this, so you probably know what's coming. But I'm going to show you a video. You won't be able to see it too well, but I'll tell you what I'm. So this is let me get this going. This is you. What? This is you. Yeah, there you go. This is you hitting three balls. So the first one you hit is with where you try to load 100% into your trail side, and you thin it kind of expectedly because that's not your pattern. The second one you hit is with more of Cameron Champ's pattern, where you try to stay on the front leg, and it's I'm just gonna let it play here, and you hit it kind of skunky, not that great.
I hit a little bullet.
Right, and yeah. So, and then the third one that you're teeing up right now you're gonna, and you can see when you're doing it, okay, now you're getting this is your normal patterns where you're getting 67% into that trail leg, and then going from there. It's amazing to me how important that first pressure move is into your trail leg, off the ball, and also the trigger.
Yeah, to me, to be able to get it to be consistent, I have to have a trigger so I can do the same thing. It's like a dance step for me. I trigger and then I let myself shift, and it just happens kind of the same way every time. It's comfortable. If I feel like I get a little bit more, I get uncomfortable, and it throws out the timing of all the other stuff. So
it's interesting. So if you were to hit 5 shots normally, and then you were going to try to hit 5 shots, but somebody said to you, okay, you're not allowed on these next 5 shots to do any trigger move left. How much worse do you think your performance would be if somebody like if you stole your trigger move from yourself?
Never tried it, but probably worse.
Yeah, if you had to go immediately to the right, you had no trigger left, then go right. It just wouldn't. So it would steal your flow. Okay.
To me, the whole thing is just one big flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all. That's why every piece feeds from the piece before. So the trigger and then the load, they're feeding off of each other. And so I need the trigger to get me moving.
That's going to be. We'll put that as that's going to be my homework assignment for Milo. for some reason, I just get bored of you hitting good shots. I think that there's something really to be learned in stealing certain pieces from you or changing certain pieces for you to make you into a worse golfer. Because like I learned a lot from, like, you hit it so good almost every time, but it's interesting to me if you put other certain things into your swing that golfers try to do, it can get you down to be as bad a golfer, as bad a driver of the ball as I am or worse. So just by doing that, huh?
Probably make me worse because I could swing harder, so I would hit it farther crooked.
Right. So that'll be something that's something I'll want you to try to do. Just hit 5 balls with no trigger at all, and just there'll be no, that'll be more of a parts and pieces and less of a flow for you then.
Yeah, I'm guessing it won't be very good.
Today, guys, we're talking about the Driving Force, this new Be Better Golf premium product that we put up at bebettergolf.net/driving force. You'll see a trailer for it there, and other things. A collaboration that Milo Lines, a former playing professional who now is a teacher to guys on the PGA Tour, women on the LPGA Tour, and also satellite tours all over the world. And one of the most sought-after coaches when it comes to full swing and driver anywhere in America. And also with Dr. Scott Lynn, the Director of Research and Education for Swing Catalyst. 3 of us got together and did this really cool over an hour and a half long of content series, all about ground forces, which kind of seems to be the big buzz force here, in using a ground force pattern to get better at golf. And really, that to me is the key to doing something good and doing it again and again and again. All right, this is the off-topic part that I'll ask you, Milo. In all 3 of those swings that I saw when I went slow motion through those 3 swings, when you did the 3 different patterns, in all 3 of them, you still got your hands well ahead of the ball before impact, or as far as like, none of those 3 was flipped. They were all out here like that, and you caught it nice. When I first started doing this project, I thought that we might find something in the ground forces that would link it to toe or leg tension or being able to toe the club through. So that was interesting to me to watch you hit those shots badly with a pattern that didn't suit you, because somewhere in your educated hands or something, you still knew how to get the club into the mechanically correct impact position. So what are you doing to be able to do that, even if you're using a force pattern that's all whacked out for you?
The structure of my arms didn't change. So my arms understand what they're trying to do and how they move in sync with my chest. So I don't struggle with my trail arm falling behind or anything like that. So I'm able to move that unit up into the ball, whether or not I use pressure the same way. So I couldn't hit it solid, but I still moved the arm structure the same way into the ball.
How much firmness do you feel in your arms during the swing?
Almost none. I feel like my arms feel like a rope. My left arm is basically not doing a whole lot, and my right arm for me feels like how I throw. So if I want to throw something really hard, I get my arm really loose so I can move it fast.
So these 2 ideas seem to go opposite to each other, though, because you want to have a very definite structure to your arms, but you're talking about, when you throw it having this certain like kind of looseness. So how does that structure and looseness go together? So that, because for me, who does let the club pass just like that much, it does kind of slinky behind me and then try to catch up. Yours. So
I would say where their structure from the shoulder down to the wrist joint is really loose.
Okay. So it's firm from here to there, but this is loose, and this.
Not necessarily firm, it's got some structure to it. Like when I throw a ball, my arm doesn't get completely floppy on me like this. My arm has some structure to it. So I would say my elbow joint is fairly structured, my shoulder is pretty mobile, and my wrist is very loose in my golf swing. Because my wrist feels like it's basically just doing this. It's freewheeling. There's I'm not holding anything. I'm just throwing. It's just going fast.
Okay. Talk about the connection between bad face alignment coming down late in the swing, like we saw with my friend the other day, and how that might lead into you having to do something into the ground in order to square it up. What is the ground force pattern and face angle connection? Kind of connect those two things, because they seem connected in a way that I don't understand that much yet.
I'd have to look at what the ground force pattern is that causes somebody to stall. But when that face is coming in open, they have to turn off the rotational force. So the things that keep you turning have to turn off to some degree, so that you can flip the club out and square it. So there's various ways you can square a club face up. You can square it with twist. You can square it by flipping it out and catching it up with you in front of you like this, which tends to hit high ones and pulls. But both of those require you to kind of turn off your body and really twist it or swing it. So if the face is coming in too open, you're going to have to figure out something.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so that's what not to do. So, but what you want to do is what, coming from like 5.5 through finish.
So ideally, from 5.5 through 2 feet after the ball, I don't want the face doing very much at all. So I want me to feel like my body's just getting out of the way, and the club face is very stable. And then once I go through it, it's super relaxed. So the pivot is continuing to go. And then at some point, my body's kind of slowing down, and that slingshot's past me.
Yeah, you see that. Mm.
And I feel like I'm not doing a whole lot muscularly to the golf club. I'm just letting it swing, just like I do when I throw a ball. If I was going to take a baseball and throw it as hard as I could, I'm not using a lot of muscle to do it. I'm just turning my arm into a whip.
Okay, I want to ask you something about the ground force pattern. And as far as you were saying that it's like a dance move, and with me trying to retrain my ground force pattern, that's the main thing I've seen. It's like I'm trying to learn a new dance. One thing that I noticed is very strange is when I get the forces totally correct on the plate, or I can just feel that it's totally correct, and then the ball really rockets off, my left heel comes off the ground. But it kind of just happens that it comes off the ground. If I try to lift it up off the ground, I kind of end up standing and getting the shoulders flat. So I know that that's something that you do, and something that I see a lot of your students end up getting to, is that the left heel comes a little bit off the ground in the backswing. What's the right and wrong way to get to that point where the left heel is coming off?
So I want to feel like my core muscles are turning and winding my body up. If I wind up completely, at some point my left foot really basically wants to come up.
It gets pulled off the ground.
Yeah, the heel gets pulled up. I'm not pushing it up.
Right. So if you get your shoulders steep and you really coil, then that foot kind of comes with everything.
Yeah. You see my heel comes off the ground, but there's still a lot of force under the ball of my foot. So I'm still pushing into the ground pretty hard with that foot. That was one of the things. You look at like Matt Wolf. We talked with Dr. Scott Lynn about that, and he said Matt Wolf has his foot basically almost off the ground, but he's got 50-50 at that point.
Yeah, he's pushing like heck into that big toe.
Like crazy, that big toe on his left foot.
You're a really knowledgeable golf pro about getting golfers better and everything, and you know a lot about the golf swing. But I got to imagine there was at least one thing that you learned during our 3 days together and the 2 days on the plate. What was something that you learned or was reinforced for you that you hadn't really considered or thought of as much before?
I learned how important it is to get the pressure to be the same every time into the trail side. I would have never guessed I did it exactly the same over and over again, but I knew my feels about the same. But that's probably the main thing I realized is how important that.
What Scott was saying, that when he had Tommy Fleetwood on the plate, I forgot what Tommy was at. I think he was at something like 70% as well into his trail leg. It was that way with full swing 9-iron. It was that way with full swing 4-iron. It was that way with hybrid. It was that way with driver. Like every club that he was swinging full, and it was only and it was like that with most of the tour that he's tested. I know that he's tested Justin Rose and Eduardo Molinari, Francesco Molinari, a lot of guys. And they're all, that pattern is just the same. So it makes me wonder, somebody like you who this just happened, like that pattern just kind of happened for you naturally as going from athletics to golf and merging them into this golfletics kind of thing. That pattern just kind of happened. for a lot of adult learners, and myself, and you were an adult learner too, really. But for a lot of adult learners and a lot of be better golfers that learn in their 20s, 30s, and beyond, that pattern just didn't get set in correctly when they first started learning golf. So just real briefly, I know we talked about this a little bit, talk about the process of taking whatever pattern you have and getting the order and amplitude correct.
Well, first do it without a golf club. Learn what it feels like to move through the motions in the right order. So trigger, move pressure to the trail foot, let yourself kind of sink into the ground, put the brakes on, all of those things without a golf club first. And then put a golf club into the equation and learn how to do it again at not a super high rate of speed.
Yeah.
And then introduce a little bit more speed and a little bit more speed until you can do it.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing you said in your wrap up is that you have to get to learn intuitively too. Is not only are you doing these steps, but you're doing these steps just a fraction of time ahead of what the golf club is doing.
Yeah, they're always
you're always a little ahead of it, right?
Yeah, they always precede whatever the club does. So the club can't move until you do something to
right.
So you're going to see forces move before the club does.
Yeah, Dr. Scott was saying you want forces before motion, but we see a lot of people, especially when they try to do ground force stuff or they try to like do certain things they've seen like online, it's like they're trying to make the club get into a certain position that they've seen, and if the force hadn't occurred before that position, then it's just manufactured. It's phony and it won't help.
Why it's so important that there's flow to it. That's why I like my little trigger that gets the whole thing, all the energy moving in the right order. So, got to have flow.
Okay, one more thing, and then hold on. Okay, guys, you can. Oh, let me put my microphone on. Okay, guys, you can check this out over at bebettergolf.net/driving force. And if you go to bebettergolf.net/driving force, I'm going to put one of the segments up just there for free for the next, like, until Thanksgiving's over. The Milo's analysis segment. It's like a 45-minute segment, really getting into under the hood of why Milo does everything. It'll give you a little taste of it as well. So go to bebettergolf.net/driving force, and on there you'll see the advertisement for the series, but then also I'll embed on there for the next little while that Milo's analysis segment, which is pretty cool. Another thing I wanted to show you, Milo, that we were talking about before. I don't know how this is going to work out because I've never used this before. But I just, as we started this, got these foot soles, salted golf insoles.
Pressure plates for your feet. Pretty
right.
Cool.
So you can kind of see there. See that's where the sensors are for. So we're going to test these, and we're going to see if that could be an alternative way to start to kind of train some of these things, because I will say it's not intuitive or easy. It's a strange thing because it's not intuitive if you don't do this already, but the more you start working at it, the more you start feeling like, oh yeah, this is what it should feel like. So final words about the driving force, Milo, and then we'll let you get onto your Thanksgiving plans.
Well, I got to go teach a few more lessons. So I'm actually late for one right now, but.
Oh, okay. Final word.
Final word. Get the driving force. I think it's really cool. It's entertaining and educational for everybody. I think everybody will like it. I learned quite a bit, actually. There's quite a few different things that I just talking to Dr. Scott, and actually me being on the plate, seeing how it works. Mm-hmm. I learned a little bit about how I move. I would have guessed I got a little more pressure to the right. Maybe I don't remember. I guessed pretty close when I did guess. I guessed 70% or something.
And you also guessed that like torque force was your main force, but it's actually like the torque force kind of gets you in position, and then you really kill it with vertical force.
Yeah, my torque was just like right in the middle of tour average, but my vertical significantly above tour average. So yeah. Okay, guys, you can check out this at bebettergolf.net/the driving force. There'll be a link in this video. You can contact Milo at his YouTube channel, which is at Golfletics, also tagged in this video. You can contact me at contactbebettergolf@gmail.com. Let us know any questions you guys have. Thanks for watching. Okay, thanks for watching that, guys. Stay tuned, and I'm going to show you this preview for it, but
go over and check it out on BeBetterGolf.net/thedrivingforce. I know Milo is really proud of it, and the feedback that we've gotten already from people who have gotten the driving force has been incredible. So that's really the thing isn't very interesting to me, and it's not very interesting to Be Better Golf just to see, like, okay, what are the best players in the world doing? Because we see that every week on the PGA Tour. The real thing that makes Be Better Golf different, or that can be useful for players, is how do I level up? How do we get golfers to level up, to go from wherever they are to a little better or even a lot better level? And the real difference here is learning what ground force pattern you should be using, and how you should be using the ground, and how you can do it most consistently. And like we saw in that video we did the other day, the way you are most powerful is also going to be the way you are most consistent, and vice versa. The way you are most consistent is going to be your most powerful pattern, because you're finally being athletic, and that's what we show in this series. So here's a little trailer for it, and you can check out more at BeBetterGolf.net/drivingforce. Thanks for watching. Bye.
100 into the lead side right here, just as the club starts to move back, and then the pressure starts to go back into his trail side. That's his trigger.
If your lead knee releases back, then generally your pressure is gonna
Move back.
more back.
Yeah, you definitely got 100. Yeah. And then what you'll do when you're hitting your 100 swing, if you hit 10 swings where you're trying to get 100 in and you hook 8 of them, now you know, oh, that's what causes my hook. And so if you get on the course and it starts hooking, now you have a strategy. Oh, I got to stay a little more.
You don't see many people go down here and stop and then jump up.
Yeah. But as we get older and as our nervous systems stop functioning as quite as well, then that stretch short cycle doesn't work quite as well as it used to. And so some people may have to load a little bit slower.
Your preload, where you're dropping, you only weigh 90 pounds on the plate.
So I'm about half my weight.
About half your body weight, yeah.
And then I feel like I catch myself with my weight pretty much on right on the center of my feet, I would guess. Is that where it looks like it lands to you?
Let me check.
So you are right on 50-50 at the peak.
When I catch, it goes that way.
Yeah. And in golf, you can't just make one change, right?
The brakes are so hard.
I'm pushing hard
Yeah.
against the ground, and then as the club's moving, I keep pushing a different direction.
Right here is where you need to brake. There you go.
Oh, baby.
Oh, there's actually a ramp.
Yeah,
there.
it's a big spike.
You really started to ramp up the brakes just before you got the club parallel to the ground. And my club head speed went way up.
I like that one.
130 again.